Welcome once again to the Car Report, and this is your host, Chuck Lee, and of course we're coming to you live from the beautiful downtown tire factory right here in wonderful and one of the top cities in the United States to live in, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. And for you foreigners, we call it Eau Claire. And of course, as usual, I have my rusty trusty sidekick with me, and we're sorry we started a little late tonight, but Roy Rogers Hoff had a little trouble with the engineering in there. And of course, you've heard of Roy Rogers Hoff. He's related to Hopalong Cassidy on his grandfather's side. And you knew that, Fred, didn't you?
No.
All right. Now, we got the master running in there, Roy.
Yes.
I hope we got sound, and I hope we got the master running, because we are live and we can't go back and change things. That's why we run things as they are, and of course this program's live, and the Loyal Order of the Raccoons is now in session. Please take off your hat and show reverence, Fred.
I move we call it a meeting.
Yeah, that sounds like you after, what, 50, 75 years of going to meetings. You're good at closing them out.
Yeah.
Well, I see you still don't have your raccoon hat, Fred.
No, I don't have my raccoon hat.
Well, that's with me here tonight is my rusty trusty sidekick, Fred the Truth Stafford.
Hi, everybody.
Glad to see you again, Fred. And you know, this is Monday, July 8th.
Yes.
And it's the 190th day of the year, Fred. 28th week, 7th month. 52% of the year is already elapsed. Christmas is right around the corner.
Yes.
And you know, Fred, on this date, 21 years ago, President Ford announced he'd seek Republican nomination for president. That must have been back in the days when you could just announce a couple of months ahead of time. Now they announce 2 years ahead of time, and they still can't win. And of course, I was going to mention that I saw something in here about, oh yeah, here it is. First American passport was issued by the U.S. State Department 200 years ago today, 1796, Fred. So they've been handing out passports for many, many years. Of course, Fred, we like to see how you do on the program. We want to stump you and see how intelligent you are, and we want to ask you who was born on this date back in 1908, and he was a vice president once. He was vice president, our 41st vice president from 1974 to 1977. Born in 1908, 88 years ago today. And his father was born 157 years ago today, or his grandfather. Very famous family from out east. You ought to know this, being from New York.
Should have been.
You're out of order.
Our friend.
You're out of order.
Yes, that's Rockefeller.
All right. Okay, I hope Roy's got everything wound up in there now. We got our mics on, I hope. We got sound there, Roy? Okay, we got our master running, Roy? All right, that's Roy Rogers Hoff in there. He's been with us since what now, the Civil War, Fred? Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Of course, we are coming to you from our new studio here, and Fred does give tours Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from what, 3 to 9?
No, I don't give any tours
the fine
at all.
Big studios here?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, now we got a lot to talk about, Fred, and boy, oh boy. We always have a lot to talk about. First of all, I want to show this, Fred. You'd probably be amazed to see that. Look at the size of that gambling ad. A 2-pager.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what, about $3,000 for that? That's the second one I've seen this week. It's for that big new gambling joint down there called Oneida Casino. Wherever it is.
Up in Rock, I think of.
Where is it anyway?
Green.
Here it is.
Green,
up in It's Green Bay.
Green Bay, yeah.
It's a big outfit over there, Fred. A lot of gambling going on. A lot of paychecks down the tubes every Friday nights at that place.
Yeah.
It's creating a whole new class of welfare people and addicted people in the state. Isn't that lovely?
It's helping the Indians.
Helping them, but we're creating a whole new class of addicts. thousands of them, Fred, are stealing their paychecks, robbing banks, stealing from their bosses, getting arrested over it, getting in trouble, getting in fights, just over this gambling that the Indians, because they're a separate nation, have been able to foist upon the American people. And of course, it's creating millions of dollars worth of wealth for them, but it's destroying a whole other class of people to raise one up.
Yes.
I think Martin Luther King has probably spin in his grave 100 times since that started. All right, Freddie. Well, you know, Fred, there's been a lot of talk about this stuff going on downtown. You know, about this arena. We've been hearing about it in the papers, and
Well, I thought they were giving up on that idea.
well, you know, they spent the thousands of dollars on the phase one, and it came back very negative. It really shook them to the foundation. So the group called the City Center Stakeholders Committee regrouped, Fred, and they called for phase two, of course, with taxpayers' money again. Now they're expecting big things out of phase two's study, because they want to get some positive push in here to get this arena in town, and you can't get an arena in with a bunch of negative press.
Well, they ought to know that it's going to cost the taxpayers a lot more money, and it isn't going to really pay for itself either.
Now you don't want to put a little bit of the facts in the way, Fred. Heavens to Betsy, we don't want to get facts in the way. We got to get this thing built. Now Roy's going to put up a phone number there and our email address, and we'll keep that on the screen the rest of the night. Now, if you want to write and ask Fred or I any questions or mention anything about the program, you can send an email address down there at the bottom as cows@discover-net.net, and that's open 24 hours a day, 7.5 days a week. Now that phone number there is for people to call in tonight if you want to discuss the arena, pro and con, and what's going on with it. Now, Fred.
How about your friend?
Fred, I seen in here where the convention center was going to have a forum, or there was going to be a convention center forum on Friday, July 12th. I called up the Chamber of Commerce to find out if I could get a ticket for it. The tickets are $15.
Yeah.
And $10 for chamber members. It's put on by the Chamber of Commerce, I guess. Come to find out that the thing had been canceled. The Convention Center Forum. And the panelists were going to be Dennis Berry from Eau Claire, a taxpayer's viewpoint, Jeff Hallion from the Landmarks Company of Financing, Mike Huggins from the City of Eau Claire City Center Plan, Tom Larson from Larson Properties, that's the Holiday Inn downtown.
Yeah.
He was going to present tourism. And Lorraine Lee from Eau Claire was going to give a taxpayer's viewpoint. And they were going to discuss such issues as, why do we need a convention center? How would a convention center benefit local residents? How would it be funded? Tax dollars. Where would it be located? Downtown? Question mark. What will be the impact on my taxes? Question mark. What is the relationship to local tourism? Question mark. What is it going to cost me? Question mark. And also they were going to discuss the Phase 2 economic impact results.
Mm-hmm.
But evidently something happened, Fred, and the whole kit and caboodle shebang was closed down and canceled for now, till further notice. I guess at the city's request, it was canceled. So evidently either Phase 2 came back even worse than Phase 1, or they're regrouping for some reason there. So anyway, Fred, we're going to call up Lorraine Lee and ask her what happened, because it says here she was going to be a panelist, and if anybody knows in the city of Eau Claire, it would be Lorraine Lee. Now what's her number again?
832-8291.
And while that's ringing there, if you want to call in and ask questions of Lorraine tonight, you're going to have to call on 839-5067, and then we'll have the question. Is this Lorraine Lee?
Yes, it is.
Formerly of the City Council and County Board?
Yes, sir.
Presently in much-deserved retirement and rest?
Well, I guess so. I'm retired, but not expired.
All right. Well, Lorraine, we're starting to discuss the this big issue called well, it's beginning to become called the City Center. And they even have a committee called the City Center Stakeholders Committee, which actually it encompasses the convention center, but it's a broader spectrum for the whole downtown area. And it seems like this thing is really growing by leaps and bounds. There's the Stakeholders Committee. I counted the names of the people on it, and it came up to close to 35 people were named to this Economic Policy Advisory Committee, Downtown Stakeholders Committee. And yeah, some pretty well-known people like Dr. Lee Hansen, the big spending school board superintendent for the Eau Claire schools, Chu Lee from the Hmong Mutual Assistance Association, Reverend William Hines, the token Christian minister who gets on all of these committees. He's from the represents the North River Fronts neighborhood. Larry Wright, who has the large outstanding loans with the city right now and who is also a city council member, clearly in my eyes a conflict of interest. David W. Carlson from the Department of Transportation and also on the county board. Don Norrell, city manager of the city of Eau Claire. Howard Ludwigson, chairman of the Eau Claire County Board. Tom Mahalik from the First Star Bank, also on the city council. Linda Helgeson from Farmer Property Management. John DeRosa owns the Burger Kings. And Tom Larson from Larson Properties owns got the sweetheart deal on the Civic Center for $100,000 and also owns the downtown Holiday Inn and some other hotels. And Dan Klumpner from Commonwealth Development Corporation. That's just to name a few. There's many, many more on there. And that's called the City Center Stakeholders Committee. Now, before we get into that, Lorraine, I came across clandestinely the minutes of the Eau Claire Visitors of the Public Relations Action Committee. And that committee was made up of Bill Anderson, Lana Bardingale, Margie Berry, Roger Berry, Bev Betcher, Matt Haller, Pam Haller, Bill Helgedick, Bill Kaiser, Caroline Courtness, City Council, John Lawler, Linda Mickelson, Dan Munt, Larry Wright, City Council, Dan Ropa, who's a local reporter and puts out a newsletter on business happenings in the city, Kurt Rude, Carol Saunders, Jim Shue, the downtown, he's actually the head of the Downtown Association, the Eau Claire Main Street Association, excuse me, he's the head of that. And Becky Welke and Linda John, who I think is from the Chamber of Commerce, if I'm not mistaken. And the meeting was called to order by Linda John. And it looks like they're going to start talking about this, I think this committee, this Public Relations Action Committee, is set up to help push the downtown arena and other development. It appears that they've agreed to have, I think it was Caroline Courtness is checking on the possibility of holding public neighborhood meetings. Lana Bardingale reported on the last subcommittee meeting, and location, cost, need, and benefits still are the focus points for their presentations. I'm assuming they're discussing ways to push through the Civic Center. I don't know for sure, but it says here Linda John reported that the Phase 2 is moving along positively. A draft will be presented by early July. So they're privy to the results of Phase 2 before the general public. Well, anyway, the bottom line is between the Public Relations Action Committee, which is pushing on one end over here, and the City Center Stakeholders Committee and their cohorts pushing on another end. They're pushing to get not only a civic center, but a whole vast urban renewal program from the bus barns up here, up here on Forest Street, Fred, the one up there that looks like a university up there, except it's just for fixing buses and storing buses. From there all the way down to the Eau Claire River, and from the Chippewa River east to roughly right where we're at here, they want to have a massive urban renewal on this side of the river. And then across the river, they're doing urban renewal around Luther Hospital, and they're going to put the Senior Citizen Center up there on Bellinger, and that whole area is going to be urban renewalized. And then down by the courthouse, that's another area that's going to have massive things done to it. But they're talking multi-millions of dollars, Freddie,
Yes.
Lorraine. And that's why we're calling you tonight, Lorraine, because you were going to be on this committee that was going to tell the good folk of this community what the taxpayers' viewpoint was on the convention center. Now I see it was you and Dennis Berry were the taxpayers, but according to my facts here, no, that's a different Berry. That's Roger and Margie Berry. So I don't know if that's any relation, but Dennis Berry Jr. and you were going to be the taxpayers' viewpoint on this. Now, what's your take on this here lately, Lorraine? We haven't had you on for 3-4 weeks now. What do you think about what's been coming on here with the arena? And you were going to be the taxpayers' viewpoint. What were you going to tell the folk down there at this high-priced meeting?
Well, I was contacted and asked to be on a panel down there, and I did accept until I found out that actually what it is a quarterly meeting of the Chamber of Commerce, and what you're doing is fundraising for them, because I thought it was to be for the public, and that's why I serve the public. The Chamber of Commerce has been for 20-some years, or even more than that, committed for an arena, and they're not going to stop at anything. But what changed my mind was, and I called and told them that I would not be on the panel, as I have no desire to talk with the Chamber of Commerce. I know how they feel on it. I thought it was to be public, and in order to come, you had to pay $15 to come, and I don't think many people are going to do that. But in the meantime, I also got quite a document here. It's called Report and Recommendations to the City Center Stakeholders Committee. And
Lorraine, I got that same document here.
well, this is what came to me, and there's things in it that it's just appalling to me how 11 people called the city council can rape the taxpayers the way this is going to. I will tell you this, Don Norrell has always been, to my knowledge, up front with me whenever I've talked with him. And when they started working on North Barstow, way up in there and Forest Street and that, I called Don and I said, I think this smells like an arena. And what Don told me is the only way that it can come about is by a county sales tax, and they get the money to build it. But in this introduction here, they speak of how things did go downtown, and really there's a lot of things about downtown that I miss. I liked going in and out of the stores, but they're just not there anymore because of there's a regular trend all over the country to shop malls, and Shirley Trinian and her bunch took care of downtown. But it says today there's only a few specialty retail shops remaining, and the financial institutions do not generate customer traffic as they once did. And they speak about two major employers, the state of Wisconsin and NSP, have indicated their likely intent to move offices from the city center. Okay. And the trend clearly suggests continuing disintegration of the center, and it also suggests that the last policy designed to reverse this trend has been ineffective.
Okay, Lorraine, now I've got here on page 920 of this secret report. It's not available to the general public. I don't know how you got your copy, but mine was very hard to come by. I'll clue you in. And they have a 5-year plan. Now, Fred, you remember the old communist Russia. What did they have over there?
5-year plan.
They had 5-year plans in communist Russia. Okay, well, they got a 5-year plan here, Lorraine, and it starts out in the year 1995, so we're in the second year of this 5-year plan for what they call, and the first part of it is implementation program is maintaining and strengthening the city center as a business, service, and tourism center of the region will depend largely on a short-range action plan of projects described herein.
Well, let me cut in here, because that was what I was getting to in this manner. If says on this introduction that the recently completed city center plan advances a vision for the resurrection of the central business district. Affecting the plan will require substantial initial investment and therefore will be unpopular. Regardless, the city center plan must be implemented quickly. They want to shove this through. It says without a new major activity center, the city center plan cannot succeed. An organization dedicated to the identification and pursuit of this activity is warranted. And they go on, I think this is what the public has to know. They go on talking about the issues of transportation, and parking must be addressed. And that's what I had written in the Leader Telegram. They say nothing about that. Statutes clearly state that it is the entity of a government that has to pay for all street repairs, all building of new streets, and parking and parking ramps. That's going to be on the taxpayers' back. And they're saying there's going to be no taxes here. And to me, I am just appalled at what they go on to say. It says a public investment necessary to generate in the pursuit of the public funds and the attraction of private capital. We know they're going to have some private stuff in there, but let me tell you something. Few are going to profit from this arena, and many are going to pay, Chuck.
Well, many are called and few are chosen, Lorraine. And you know, but this 5-year plan is already into the second year, but I'm going to read some of the things that already happened or were supposed to happen in 95, and there's a big hunk for 96, but you know, the end of the 5-year plan, we've been hearing rumors that there's going to be an election, Fred, and we're going to get to vote on this arena. Well, the end of the 5-year plan says 1999, complete the convention center facility.
Right, they're going to shove this plan through, and that's in it. I don't think you're going to have anything to say about it. I really do not.
Well, the voters should say whether 1999 is going to be completion of the civic center.
Well, they don't even know this.
They're taking it for granted that the taxpayers are going to add a few more straws to their back. But before we get into that, Lorraine, I want to read a little tidbit here that goes back to probably before you were on the city council, but you had to deal with it a little bit maybe, and that is the Arts Council gets reprieve on city loans.
Does that surprise you?
With the help of the Eau Claire City Council, the Eau Claire Regional Arts Council has refinanced a city loan to the benefit of both parties, a city official said. Now, the council voted recently to give the Arts Council, which operates the State Regional Arts Center and Theater, 5 more years to begin making payments on a $250,000 loan that was given out in the late 80s. Payment on the no-interest remodeling and mortgage loans would have been due starting this fall. That's just the payments to start paying on it. We're supposed to start this fall. But the council delayed the payment start date until 2001. Now that means that they won't have to start paying on that until the arena has already been in business from 1999, the year 2000, and 2001 for almost 3 years. That'll give the arena, or that'll give the Arts Council a breathing room there to try and save itself from the monster, the Civic Center that's going to come in and swallow up all these small entertainment centers. So they're going to give them a reprieve of 3 years to see if they can hold on.
Well, now, I of course, was not on the council when this was decided upon to give them the loan. However, it was my understanding, and I want you to understand, I'm saying that is what I understood was that the loan was to be paid back by 10 years. They didn't have to pay anything on it until the end of the 10 years, but at the end of that thing, it was like a sunset clause, and they had to pay it by that time.
Well, now they've been given a 1980s loan that's been given a reprieve to not even start making the payments until the year 2001.
Right.
So that's
you know, here on this other thing that piles in with something like that, they're talking about the city center plan, and they state here $300,000 for the support of a loan pool, and none of this is supposed to be taxpayers' money. So if they're going to pay this back any more than the state theater, Chuck, because in the first place they've already told us, and this is based on a good year, that it's going to have a $600,000 $300,000 deficit, but what about all this property they've got to acquire? They've done it up Forest Street already. There must be 10, 12 houses out of there. And in this report, it also states they want to continue buying up those houses. They're just going to condemn them, and the people are going to have to get out. We're going to have to pay for the houses. We're going to have to relocate it for greenery.
Well, now, Lorraine,
For this convention center.
Now, Lorraine, the city threw in $300,000. Commitment to the loan pool will be provided to the Development Corporation after the first official meeting of the Board of Directors and after the appropriate commitments are obtained for a bank loan pool as outlined in the City Center Stakeholders Committee report. The city's loan will be provided at a 0% interest rate, but then the city's also committed to $750,000 more during the 2-year period of 97 through 98 for the loan pool, with the understanding that the private sector will match the amount actually spent at the ratio of either 2 to 1 or 3 to 1. So the city's going to put up over $1 million of taxpayers' money to get this loan pool thing going.
Did you read further on what they're going to be doing with the streets that are going to lead down to that? That's in this thing too, and they're saying to us there's no tax money here. Who's going to pay for coming down Cameron Street and Bellinger Street and all over like that? Who's going to pay for that parking ramp? These people, I am telling you, I am incensed, but these are the same people. Now, the taxpayers here, if they believe this snow job, in my opinion, every one of them would have a IQ of 0.
Now, Lorraine.
Well, that is, I mean, anybody that could swallow that is crazy. And these people should, I tell you, 11 people on this board, and this is the kind of a board, the city council, that they were snowed into. They spent $100,000 to get rid of the only city council that ever had a part in running this city.
Okay, Lorraine, now they're going to expand this Main Street Association and change the name of it.
Of course.
To 15 members, and the reason why is the expanded Main Street Association would meet the need for an inclusive and representative organization to address the ongoing promotion, design, and maintenance issues of the city center area. Now, the city center area is what we talked about earlier.
Right.
The center of the city center is going to be the arena, which on the map, if Roy wants to show that, Roy knows where the Civic Center is going to be. That's going to be right behind the present downtown post office, where the Eau Claire and the Chippewa rivers meet. But they've got a vast number of projects that go with that, Lorraine, to complement and to add to the downtown area to make the arena supposedly pay for itself and make it the center of this brand new regional tourism center that's going to be created.
Well, I don't agree with them, and there are 3 pages in here of what they're going to be doing. And this is going to be such a big amount of money. Where are they going to get that money from? Do you have any idea, Chuck?
Well, Lorraine, I'll tell you, the school board just met tonight, and they're giving people a Christmas present early. I'll scoop the Journal or the Channel 13 news. They're going to report that the school board just announced that they're on a $75,000 home in Eau Claire. Your taxes are going to be cut roughly $300. So you're getting a Christmas present. But guess what? Don't spend it now on that VCR or a new TV, because first of all, the TV might be obsolete in a couple of years. You can talk to Roy about that later. But the other reason is because the city of Eau Claire at their meeting is going to try and snatch up as much of that $300 as they can get a hold of to build this new downtown arena area.
I don't know how they're going to go about that, but in reading this thing here, it makes...
There's a map of it right there.
Yeah, it makes me really sick here. All these pages, this is going to cost just multi-million
Roy, you want to come in here and point out where that's at? With your finger or something?
Well,
there's a stick right there, Roy.
This starts on page 920.
Okay, Roy's going to point out exactly where this arena is going to be now.
Well, I think most people are pretty sure where, and then we're going to have to relocate the post office and take...
Right to the left of Roy's stick there, where the 2 rivers come together, that little river, well, you're off a little bit there, Roy. Don't get up there in the other lake. Right to the left of the stick there now. They're going to pretty much wipe out all those old buildings up there around the post office area, and the dirty bookstores will be wiped out, and a lot of people will be happy for that to be gone. And Of course, to the right there, that pink square there, that is the Banbury place there. I'm pretty sure that's what that represents, that large pink square to the right center of your screen. And just north of the arena area is all green space now, thanks to the remediation to get rid of all of that contaminated ground that old Joe Bender used to tell us about how they used to pour batteries into the ground there, and that whole thing was contaminated, so they had to dig down and get that dirt out of there and go burn it somewhere in a nuclear waste plant or something.
Well, listen, Chuck, when I was on the city council, I all but crawled on my hands and knees trying to get the city council, the great white fathers of the city, to take out that old house that was right next to the bridge with such an eyesore, looking just like to come to my side of town you were going into a ghetto, and that gas station clean up there, and all I ever got with it, we went through that, Lorraine, it's all contaminated and it's going to cost us so much money, but they sure can do it for an arena, can't they?
Now that's right across the street north on Madison Street, just north of the Super America.
Right there, yes, right.
Where the junkyard is there, and there's a pile of contaminated dirt there.
There was a house on there where they've got the greenery, which certainly looks nice, and I commend them for doing it. But they wouldn't do it for the citizens' sake, to make our neighborhood look like something. They wouldn't do that. But now they're taking all those houses. How many houses are out up Forest Street? There must be 10 or 12 already. And in this plan, it says they're going to take the rest of them out.
Well, you know, Lorraine, I think they're going to make green space from the bus barn all the way down to where the arena is going to be, right there.
The city shop?
Right behind the post office. Yeah, the city shops there.
Yeah.
Up on Forest Street, right up going when you go up towards Pope and Talbot up there. There's a big city bus barn and shops up there. They're going to try to make, it looks like the way at the speed they're going, they're going to wipe that all the way out, all the way down to the old Phoenix Steel site, be kind of southwest of Super America there. But Lorraine, let me quickly read off what they did for the 5-year plan in 1995.
Yeah.
Their plan was to complete the 5th and Bellinger realignment, initiate a financial feasibility, market, and general design study for a convention center in the North Barstow area. The study would work with a 10 to 15 member citizen advisory committee. Complete the development zone application. Complete the Phoenix Steel area remediation project. Complete the design for Phoenix Steel Park and Farmers Market. Well, there's going to be a park of some sort there. Complete the design and acquisition for the Seniors Center facility in the Medical Center District, which is part of the City Center renewal area. Expand the boundaries of the North Barstow redevelopment area, east of Barstow Street and north of Madison Avenue, consistent with the City Center plan, and secure additional funding for blight acquisition. Complete the acquisition of FEMA properties north of Madison Avenue. Well, that's the houses we're talking about up on Forest Street that have been tore down. Identify acquisition costs for riverbank property along the Eau Claire and Chippewa rivers. So in other words, they're going to buy property along there and tear down buildings. Identify costs for remediation of the remaining environmentally contaminated properties in the city center, like Wayne's junkyard up there on the north side of Madison there.
Didn't bother them all these years to last live with it, though, did it?
Complete a process which identifies the lead agency for implementing this plan, with roles and responsibilities of other groups established, which I assume is part of these committees we talked about earlier. Identify funding mechanisms and 5-year capital improvement plan to implement this plan. Okay, into 96 now, what they're planning to do is complete the Whipple Street extension to Fulton Street. I don't know where that's at.
Fulton Street, that's where the church is.
Where the church is.
Right.
Okay,
Church.
establish a medical center, Bellinger Avenue redevelopment project area. Complete the feasibility and design study for a transportation center project at the existing transit center, which is the downtown bus depot. The advisory committee would include the Eau Claire Main Street Association, Greyhound Bus Company, Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and Eau Claire Transit. Prepare an RFP, which is kind of like a bid that people can bid on, for the reuse of the former Sioux Line building. And you know, that used to be down there by it's still down by
Been after that for a long time on.
behind the library. The Sioux Line building has been sitting empty in the rat-infested jungle back there. Prepare an RFP for the redevelopment of the former Wood Motor site. Prepare a plan for the state trailhead facility and lights for the railroad street pedestrian bridge. Complete the capital improvements plan for entryways, streetscape, landscape, signs, and lights for the city center, including recommendations for improvements to the appearance of public facilities and properties in the area. Complete recommendations to assist businesses in reorienting their focus to the river. The advisory committee would include the Eau Claire Main Street Association, the Eau Claire Waterways Commission, affected businesses, banks, and business improvement districts. Complete the study for the recommended relocation of the post office to a new location in the city center. Form a study committee to support the construction of the I-94 and Cameron Street interchange. And that's all through 96. So we're through the middle of 96, so that stuff must be going full steam ahead while they're waiting for the phase 2 study.
Well, who is going to pay for this if it's not taxpayer money to get ready for this arena? This just blows my mind how people can be taken in by this. And look what the city council is.
Well, Lorraine.
He was instrumental in getting a different form of government just to get himself on there with bank loans and everything else. So that's a conflict of interest, in my opinion.
Well, Lorraine, I've only got through 96. We got 90,
I know. So
97, 98, and 99.
That's right.
Let me read the rest of these, and then we'll ask the question, who's going to pay for all this multi-million dollars? 1997, upgrade the existing East Bank Riverwalk along the Chippewa River from Lake Street to the Haymarket parking lot to a quality comparable to the trail along the west bank of the river. Complete the Fulton Street improvements south of the Luther Middlefort Hospital. Complete the extension of the state recreation trail north through the city.
Along the railroad where it should have went in the first place.
Begin construction of the transportation center and parking ramp. We're going to have another big parking ramp downtown, it sounds like.
2 of them. If you get the arena in there, they're going to need theirs too.
Okay, complete the extension of a river walk along the south side of the Eau Claire River to the public library. Continue the construction of the river overlooks. Now, I didn't know we had any river overlooks, but I guess there is one on the east bank there by those riverside apartments there. There is kind of an overlook right there on the river, I guess.
You probably have one every 15 feet now.
Okay, complete the acquisition of properties for the convention center project. Now, this stuff is all going forward like, yes,
But it's already been done, started, Chuck.
I know they're saying, yes, you taxpayers are going to get to vote yes or no, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to have all this stuff in place, so when it comes time to vote, you can't turn back.
You can't, because they're going to approve this plan.
Okay, 1998. Build the NSP Point Footbridge. Now, from what I gather, Lorraine, I think that's from the point where the Eau Claire and Chippewa River comes together. They're going to build a footbridge across the Eau Claire River to the farmer store parking lot. That's all I can figure out the Point Footbridge is. Complete the Barstow Street Bridge Promenade improvements. We're going to have promenades again like they had back in the 1800s, Fred, and we can promenade along the river in your best fineries. And you can put on your spats and get out your bicycle built for 2 and sing Daisy. Okay, identify for acquisition the properties needed along the west bank of the Chippewa River for the extension of the bike trail.
Tear down people's houses for a bike trail.
Well, Lorraine, now the best part of all, 1999, which is a short 3.5 years from now. Complete the widening of Madison Street with Boulevard and median for Whipple Street to the river, and then finally complete the convention center facility. Now, nowhere from 1995 to 1999 do they say one word about having an election to ask the taxpayers whether they want to add all these straws onto their back.
They're not going to. They're going to pass this plan. That's just like the plan they had before with raping everybody of their property rights with the landmarks thing. It's all the same pile of stuff.
Now, who's going to pay for all this, Lorraine? Where's all the money, millions of dollars? They say maybe they could, by 1999, that arena will be up closer to $30 million than $25 million.
Well, they aren't even saying if that furnishes the inside of it. But here's the thing. Remember what I said, and I'm going to say it, and I hope everybody listening really listens. Few are going to profit, and many are going to pay.
Many will pay and few are chosen.
And we are going to pay and pay and pay and pay and pay and pay.
You mean the elitists are running Eau Claire, Lorraine?
Well, they can't even have any name band or any big facility come in here and fill 1,100 seats at the State Theater. We're 90 miles away from Minneapolis, St. Paul. Where are they going to get the people to fill up this arena? It isn't going to be that. Look, I worked in this stuff for years. I know what goes into these big conventions. They are not going to be satisfied with a 15-minute trip through the Paul Bunyan camp.
Okay, Lorraine, we got some calls coming in here.
Well, I imagine you have.
I've got some questions for you.
Right.
Now, from this Public Relations Action Committee, which met on Friday, June 7th, which just so happens to coincide with the date of the report and recommendations of the City Center Stakeholders Committee, which also came out June 7th, 1996. But anyway, this Public Relations Action Committee is talking about telling people at the meeting how to write letters to the editor. So in other words, they're pushing to make sure that people write positive letters to the editors.
Oh, sure, that's in this part here, too. In their minutes that they had at this other thing, too, they're bragging. They're saying, well, nobody's writing much against the arena in there because they haven't been informed of what they're really going to do. I would advise every citizen, every tax-paying citizen, to go down there to City Hall and demand one of these copies of this kind of a thing and really sit down and read it and see what kind of a city council they think they've got if they're going to tax us like this for the rest of our lives.
Now you remember I mentioned Dan Ropa's name earlier. Well, he's on the must be on a committee for media propaganda. He reported that the subcommittee will come up with an approach to get the fact sheet distributed to everyone. The subcommittee is working on publishing a brochure. The brochure will be a condensed version of the fact sheet. A discussion was held on giving a name to the project. The committee will bring ideas of names to the next meeting for voting purposes. There is a possibility of looking at some billboard space after Phase 2 results are out. So it sounds to me like Phase 2, they already know that Phase 2 is going to be positive towards building an arena, so they're going to get to jump the gun and get billboards put up and everything, Freddie. Okay, Lorraine, we got some questions here. First, we have a comment. A caller called in, and if you want to call in, we do have that number, 839-5067, if you want to call in and make a comment or ask Lorraine a question. Just a comment. We've already said no to an arena, just like we said no to a swimming pool. Does the South Side want the arena? No, because it's a dead horse. The next thing they'll want to know is if we want one arena or two. Okay, that was a comment.
We already have that. We got three. If you take the State Theater and Mr. Larson, I really rather suspect that what they'll do with that is add on to the hotel, because he isn't going to go back and reinstate his option to buy on this thing if they're going to have a great big arena there.
Okay, Lorraine, and then there was this suggestion for Freddie. It says, where do you get your sense of humor? Your combination of stuffed animals, animal posters, and posters of animals to eat is really neat.
Yeah.
Okay, now Lorraine, here's the question here. Wouldn't it be better and cheaper to convert the London Square Mall into an arena if they think they have to have an arena?
As I understand it now, and this is strong rumor, and I am saying this, it's strong rumor, only I heard it from a very reliable source, that Menards has already bought that building.
Well, that's what I've heard too.
Well, I heard it from a reliable source, but at this point, it is still a rumor.
Well, the end of the question was the parking lot. The parking lot is already there, and the mall is already dead anyway. And of course, it's pretty easily accessible from South 53, and of course 94 is not too far away. And we could let John Millionaire Menard pay for it.
Well,
that way the taxpayers...
I don't think that is a big enough place for it anyway. I mean, you're going to have a lot of parking, and it's going to cost. I know that we're going to, if people go back and read that piece I wrote in the paper, I am going to tell you that it is extremely conservative, even much more so than I who wrote it.
So, Lorraine, we got we got this public relations action committee, which is going to soft soap this thing and just kind of lull us to sleep. And now it's only going to be $30 on your taxes this year. And
Oh, yeah?
on a $75,000 house, just think of it, folks, only $30 or $40 more. And by the way, didn't you get $300 back from the benevolent school board who's been raping you for years and taking your hard-earned tax dollars? Well, now they're going to give you back $300, so just give us 10% of that now, and then maybe next year we'll want another 20%. And then by, 1999, when we actually start building, we're going to have to ask you for maybe $300 or maybe $250 more on your $75,000 house. But, that'll be over a 20 or 30-year period. You can handle that. Another $300 a year for 20 years. You can handle that. Come on, taxpayers, you can handle that. What's wrong with you guys? I mean, we're going to create a civic center where we're going to let you buy tickets for $20 a whack, and you're going to be able to see all the rock and roll drug bands, and you're going to have semi-pro 18-year-old hockey teams in here, and you're going to have the Clydesdales come in and poop all over the wooden floor, and you're going to have just all kinds of excitement. So come on, you can afford that 150 some days out of the year, which is every other day. If you just keep paying $20 every other day, you'll keep the arena on keel and it'll pay for itself. Otherwise, it'll probably run a $500,000 deficit, which in that case, Fred can pay.
I'm not going to pay. I'm going to file bankruptcy.
Bring out to the London Square Mall, just like the man that wrote on the convention center that was put into his city. It was supposed to be built for them and everything else. If they say they're going to build it for us and give it to us, they'll get so far and walk off. And then you're going to hear, how can we let this that's got such a good start, though? I think our government in this city is really off base, and I will be getting my book finished before too long, and people can read about it.
Now, Lorraine, tied in with that, we said earlier, it sounds like the Greyhound bus depot could possibly, I'm just speculating, possibly move their operation in with the city transit. And of course, the Eau Claire Transit Commission has sent out a survey right now. They want all of the taxpayers and riders of the city transit system to ask whether they want to do several things. They want to upgrade the transit system, or they want to shut it down. As you know, in 1980 there was 1.2 million ridership, and in 1995 that had dwindled down to 400,000, a loss of 800,000 rides per year.
But there are people who need the transportation.
About 1,200 people a day, 1,200 passengers ride per day. Now, I don't know if that's 600 that get on it in the morning and then ride it home at night, or if that's total ridership for the day, or if that's actual 1,200 different people. It's probably a combination of both. But the thing is, Lorraine, they could very well enhance the service. You'll never see a socialist government get rid of any socialist program. They do not work that way. Never in the history of socialist/communism have they ever willingly given up a socialist program. And your transit authority is a socialist program. And they're not going to give, this city council, which leans to the left, is not going to give up one of their socialist...
leans to the left?
One of their socialist toys. Now, you've seen those dinosaurs riding around town empty. Everyone knows it. It's a well-known secret around town. You can watch the big old dinosaur diesel hog buses, the great big old monsters, riding around with one or two people. Some of those people just ride because they want to ride around town. Isn't that true, Fred? Have you ever seen those empty buses around town?
Yes.
All right. And that comes from an authority. Now, Fred, somebody called in and they want to know, who's that dame hanging on your shoulder?
Who's that? What?
Who's that dame hanging on your shoulder?
I don't have any dame hanging on my shoulder.
Look in the monitor there.
That's what you put up. That's Sybil.
Sybil.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Lorraine.
That's your girlfriend, Sybil.
Now, Lorraine, I got a big hunk of street improvements here for 96. And every winter we go through the same thing. Why don't the scientists sit down, or why doesn't the city sit down and say, okay, we're not going to let out any more bids for you bums to come in here and resurface these roads, and then 2 years later we got to resurface them again. And case in point, go look at Birch Street, resurfaced within 5 years, and go up there and look at it now. Potholes are patched all over. That road between 53 and downtown is in terrible shape, and it's been patched up. And when that was first redone, it was just praised as being a great job done. But the problem is we have rough winters. So the city needs to say, let's sit down and get our thinking caps on, and let's get a decent road surface material, whether it be concrete or a combination of concrete and ground up rubber tires or whatever, and let's get streets that are going to last 30, 40 years like in some other states. And like some of the county roads around here. Go and look at some of these roads out in the countryside.
Yeah, I know. But what I would like to know is if you have read this, there's all these recommendations by Mike Huggins. And the one here, it really gets me. Appoint a 3-member City Council Downtown Advisory Committee to review these preliminary recommendations or recommend priority actions to the council. This is just a snow job.
Who's this Mike Huggins anyway? You're on the city council. What is his...
Huggins is the assistant city manager, which we don't need.
Okay.
And he's the head of the...
He's Don Norell's right-hand man then.
Well, I don't know.
Or left-hand man in this case.
The planning division is...
Oh, he's a planner.
No, but he's the planning division head, yes. There are 5 city planners, you know. We need them like a whole map. The only thing they ever plan is who they're going to get in here to tell them what to do in Eau Claire when they live in Florida. Just like that fire station thing, if that wasn't stupid.
Okay, here in one of the recommendations from Mike Huggins, which he signed, this piece of paper, I don't know, I guess, well, he mentions the date June of '96, but anyway, he says here, the council, which is the city council, needs to be aware that we are talking about significant change from what the city has done in the past and about shifting significant dollar resources towards the downtown in a time of difficult budgetary decisions. In other words, the city council is already running in the red.
Right.
The council should also recognize that there may not be a strong, widespread community consensus for the city to take a more active role, much less commit substantially more resources to that effort. But things have changed as of tonight, Lorraine. The Socialist School Board just gave up $300 of the taxpayers' money back to the peon taxpayers. There's a little bit of short-lived freedom here. How much of that are the socialists down at the city council going to grab and pump into this, reviving this city center with an arena ad nauseum?
I have no idea. It just blows my mind when I read this. I mean, they say right in it it's not going to be popular. They're telling them to do it right now before the public even knows what's going on.
In other words, let's screw them before they know what hit them. Is that the deal?
Well, that's what it sounds like to me. I'm telling you that, the people were really snowed. Look at the council, and I don't want to hear any comments out of them either. We told them this was going to happen when they changed the form of government, and a lot of it was against Wisconsin stats. But when you got Ted Fisher there, who can tell you to vote on it anyway and not even tell people that and turn it around to home rule, God only knows what this is going to be by the time they're done with it.
Well, why don't our benevolent senators and representatives let the people of the city of Eau Claire and the city of Menominee have home rule? Why is
They've got them, and they're dangerous.
I would rather have home rule than have Madison running it.
Not from what I've read, I wouldn't.
All you got to do is get rid of the socialists in the local area, and you could have a fine conservative government.
If you're going to go home rule and you elect a city council president when the statutes tell you point blank that person has to be elected by the council just to get these kind of people they got in here. I am going to tell you that everyone on there, I can only see about 2 of them that does not have a conflict of interest.
Yeah, but didn't Ted Boom Boom Fisher say that was legal?
Well, anything is legal to him.
Well, I think you got a different ruling out of this from Madison than he did, didn't you?
On several things.
Okay, Lorraine, we got a couple more questions here. We better get to it here.
If I can answer them, I'm not on the council anymore, but I'll tell you, again, please, anybody listening to this, go down to City Hall and ask for this document.
Anybody also listening, run down there and get your $300 before they spend it. Go to the school board and say, hey, I want my check now. You're finally giving up on some of your thievery over there at the school board. You've been stealing for ever since, what's his name, Hanson got into town. Now you're going to give back $300 of what you've been stealing for the last 10 years. So now go down there and demand your check for your $300 if you own a $75,000 house, because I guarantee you the other forms of government, whether they be the Chippewa Valley Technical College or the county board or the city council, are going to grab that $300, Lorraine.
Yeah, I know, but the state really is giving this reprieve to taxpayers.
Right, it isn't the school board.
Right.
Their budget went up $4 million more this year.
Oh, they're probably doing.
I've got the facts right here, Lorraine.
City council at 7.5%, just like they tried to do when I was on there.
Lorraine, do you know that the Eau Claire School District's budget has almost doubled in 10 years?
Oh, yeah.
From $43 million up to $83 million?
Some of the salaries have, too.
1996-97 budget, $83.2 million. 1996 budget, $79.9 million. That's almost a $3.5 million increase. So they increased, and they're still giving back $300.
Well, we're working on this end of town to have our...
Well, the city's not giving it back.
We're not even recognized. And we signed our papers. Pat Ivory came to our meeting to have a neighborhood association, and we're not recognized anywhere. And we still meet.
Well,
and we're going to have our own meeting, and we don't care what Caroline Quatness has to say.
I think there should be more...
rubber stamps for this arena.
I think there should be more neighborhood watch committees, and instead of hot dogs like the token Christian Hines, the token minister up there that they use for every other committee. But let's get to these questions, Lorraine. We only got... Okay, the county board is going to dump the center of care because it's losing money. How can the city council justify spending money on something that they know is in advance will lose money? That's the question. How can the city council justify spending money on a loser, Lorraine?
Well, I don't think that they are related at all. One is county and one is city, but I don't know how they'd ever come across with these things. The state theater or anything else is not going to make any money. Like I said, and again, few are going to profit and many are going to pay.
Okay, we got another question, Lauren. One thing about the state theater, it does have some historical value. You know, it is part of history of Eau Claire. It's not something out there in 19...
We're subsidizing it, $45,000 a year. What are they looking for all these places to have their meeting for? That was a rental agreement that the city council were supposed to be able to use. City of Eau Claire was supposed to be using that building anytime they wished. I bet I can count on one hand and have at least 4 fingers left the time that it's been used.
Okay, here's the other question. I think it's a question. Yeah, it's a question. One of the councilmen said that 2 of 13 comparable arenas built by other cities have already failed. Why do we always hear about the one in Sioux Falls, which has nowhere else to go?
I have no idea. All I know is I have not heard of one of them. And incidentally, in order to get ready for this meeting that has now been canceled that I was supposed to be on Friday, I went to La Crosse. I talked to a lot of people. They're giving you a snow job, but they're trying to tell you that it's brought a lot of money into that town. They are paying through the nose.
Well, they've also had a lot of social problems because of that increased drug use, increased gang activity in that area. But here, Lorraine, here's another informative tidbit from Mike Huggins. This is out of his own study here. Available financing is one of the key elements for any redevelopment project. Lenders will not provide loans for 100% of equity. Often financing is even more difficult to obtain for downtown projects. Property values in the downtown have been generally declining or flat, or at best increasing at a slower rate than business properties elsewhere in the community. 4 years ago, the banking community worked through the IDC to create a $11.5 million bank loan pool that could be accessed for qualifying projects.
Yeah, but that was supposed to be bringing business in here. I was on the council.
Now they're saying a similar concept may be necessary for the downtown to attract not only desirable projects, but the financing necessary for those projects.
Right, and they say they're not going to borrow money? Read my article again sometime, and it tells you how, if you borrow at 5%, what it's going to cost the city. And I said it is very, very conservative. It doesn't have anything to do with all this property we're already buying. Who's paying for this? The taxpayers.
Well, Lorraine, we've only scratched the surface tonight.
That's right.
And there's, you know, the city of Eau Claire is going into their budget hearings very shortly now, and they've got all of this new school board money to play with. So, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer out there, you got to make up the decision. Are you going to finally take a break and give yourself an early Christmas present, or are you going to allow this left-leaning, big-spending socialist city council take every dime of that and pump it into a failed downtown area that has nowhere to go, especially not with $30 million arenas and possibly that much more in redevelopment?
They're going to put condos and apartments down there. Who's going to pay for that?
Well, you are, Lorraine. They're going to take your $300 that you just saved in the school board.
Well, then we better get a little bit more Social Security.
Well, I notice they aren't too quick to fix your streets out by your house there.
Well,
I'd rather see a decent street system in this town, which...
well, they really sock you through the nose to pay for it, too.
Well, Lorraine, we got to cut this off. We started a minute late, so we're going to quit a minute late. We want to thank you for being on the program tonight, and of course I called you and glad to have you home so you could straighten us out on this. Like I said, we didn't scratch the surface. We'll have to have another show on this. I want to thank you for tuning in tonight to the Cow Report. Thank Fred the Truth Stafford, Roy Rogers Hoff, Chelsea number 2 Lee there, my daughter, who's going to be helping on the show starting this fall, and of course all the fine people, Arlene, the Truth number 2 Kruger, who answered the phone. And thank you very much. We'll see you again right here on the Cow Report next time. Adios, amigos and amigettes.